you look at somebody like Obi Toppin and also Emmanuel Quigley and Quentin Grimes, all three of those guys, they've all been rotated in the starting lineup at certain points, but because of Thibodeau hasn't been there. So if Tom Thibodeau does end up getting fired at the end of the year, is there a coach that you think right now, either somebody with experience or maybe an assistant somewhere else that you think would get the best out of these players?
Oh, man, that's such a tough question. I mean, is your Steve Nash? Is that who you were thinking of?
No.
Do
you want me to?
I'll stay away from Steve Nash.
There's a guy that was offered the Charlotte Hornets job and decided to not bite at it, and he's from New York. He really grew up with the New York Knicks. He helped Jeremy Lin grow, and by the way, he knows how to work with young players. Ask the Brooklyn Nets that just tossed him away. So why wouldn't he come to New York and coach the team that he's been rooting for since he was a kid? It makes a lot of sense. You know what I'm talking about.
I don't have a better answer than that. I don't have any inside info either, but I mean, that makes sense to me what you just said.
By the way, 2 years ago, well, it was 2 years before Tom Thibodeau got the job from the Knicks, I wrote an article. And I said he's the next head coach for the New York Knicks, and he became the next head coach for the New York Knicks. I believe Tom Thibodeau will be fired this year, and Kenny Atkinson was the other guy that they interviewed. It was Woodson, Atkinson, and Thibodeau. Everybody knew Tom Thibodeau was getting that job because he was good friends with Rose. If this team does not make the playoffs this year, which I believe this team is, I think – Philadelphia's a lot better than they are. They did lose Harden for a significant amount of time. Miami's better than 7-7. Even if the Knicks make it in the play-in game or whatever the heck they call it, Chicago's better than they are when they get Lonzo Ball.
Another team too. Indiana's been playing.
Yeah,
Indiana's been playing well.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody kind of assumed that they would embrace the tank and get rid of Miles Turner.
Yeah.
Buddy Hield, but Tyrese Halliburton, I think, is leading the league in assists. Benedict Mathurin from Arizona's like 6th man of the year quality. They've still got Turner and Hield, and you know, that could be a team where obviously a lot of people thought coming in that they would tank, but historically they've been a team that has competed just to try to get into the dance. And you know, who knows, we might get to Christmas or the turn of year and they decide that they're going to keep on all those assets and maybe try to go for something, whether it be the playoffs or the play-in or whatever. They'll still have Turner's a free agent in the offseason, but they'll still have a couple of years of control over Buddy Hield that they could maybe make some moves down the line. But
they also have Rick Carlisle, who's a great coach. He's won a championship. So if anybody can get this team to play, it's him. So yeah, you're right. I mean, and I don't think the Brooklyn Nets are this bad either. So no matter what, they have Kevin Durant.
For now.
For now. But I think they'll figure it out. There's no way, if this team starts to really fall, as bad as this is with Kyrie Irving, I didn't want to mention his name. I believe that they're going to have to bring Kyrie back, and he's going to have to play because there is no way people are going to be in the stands. If you remember last year, well, the last 2 years, they had players standing outside the stadium selling tickets to fans because nobody wanted to go in there and watch this team play. And they had Kevin Durant, James Harden at one point, and Kyrie Irving. It's crazy. Stars, and nobody wants to watch this team play. That just shows you how bad it is right now in Brooklyn.
I think part of it is what you kind of described, but part of it is this kind of, if you grew up in Brooklyn, you know, odds are you're probably a Knicks fan. Mm-hmm. I mean, look at Spike Lee.
100%.
You know what I mean? That team's only been in the borough and at Barclays Center for about 10 years. And for a lot of people who are in New Jersey, that's a hell of a haul to make it to Brooklyn for home games, just to go and, you know, go back to Jersey the next day. So that fan base is kind of, I don't want to say fractured, but it's just kind of a weird situation where, you know, you don't have people who were kind of raised Nets fans who are in Brooklyn, that because their dads or their moms were Nets fans or their grandparents or something. So you just kind of get that fair weather. I get the sense kind of fans from time to time. And if things aren't clicking or if the expectations aren't high, then those people are going to kind of go to way. I don't think we'll ever see like Spike Lee go in the Nets game to support the Nets. You know what I mean? Like,
well, sometimes he does. You do
it's probably an easier commute for him, but
you see him sometimes. It's not the Knicks and the Nets, and you see him over there watching the Net games. He's not cheering them on. He's not wearing a Nets jersey,
right?
But he's there. He's wearing his Knicks hat, or he's wearing his Knicks memorabilia. So But
the only Nets jersey that Spike Lee would wear is a custom one that says more dysfunctional.
He's probably getting free tickets from the Nets. They're saying, listen, Spike, we want you there. We'll give you free tickets on the floor.
What is this, the LA Rams? They're going to hire actors to play fans?
I could see it. Anyways, everybody, we are talking to the Athletic NBA managing editor, Tyler Batiste. When you look at the Knicks as a whole and where this team is as an organization and what this team as an organization is, do you believe that the Knicks are a team that maybe has ownership moving this team in the right direction now with Rose and Wesley and all the other players? All the players to this team?
I think they're in a better position than they've been in the past. And I know Julius Randle hasn't really played maybe up to the contract that he got a couple of years ago when he was the most improved player. But the way he was playing that season, that's probably a team-friendly deal that he signed. So it could be a lot worse. You know what I mean? They signed him, if I recall correctly, that extension came during the season. So, it didn't wait for his, kind of market to go up a little bit. I think that was a smart move. It's weird to look back at it on hindsight because he hasn't played back to that level. But I think what the Knicks are paying him, other teams probably would be even in a worse position than that. I think, as you mentioned, the Jalen Brunson signing seems to be working out. He seemed to fit in with everybody well. And I think the key for them, and we'll see what happens, is they've got a lot of assets, as we know from the Donovan Mitchell, trade rumors and discussions that went on over the offseason. They've got assets. They've got young players. You mentioned RJ Barrett's contract, which I think that extension is kind of declining. Or Jalen Brunson's is declining. I'm sorry. If they ever want to get in a position in a couple of years, that probably means they're in a bad position if they're trading Jalen Brunson. But they're not in a position where they can't do anything. You know what I mean? They've got young players. Quentin Grimes, maybe you need to show off a little bit more. As you mentioned, Cam Reddish is playing well. You've got Quickly. You've got these other young pieces and draft picks that maybe you get in the market of getting another star, potentially maybe somebody who's already in New York that wants to get to go into another borough.
What are you trying to throw us off a bridge?
I'm just saying. What
are you trying to do to me, pieces, Tyler? I like you. You're your first time on this show, and I love you, man. But if you're going to try to pour poison to my team, do not bring it from the Nets. Okay?
No. I'm just kidding. But they've got the pieces, right? They've got assets. They're not in a position where they can't. They're in a better position than maybe you look at Miami, which has always been kind of a well-run organization. Miami's up against the luxury tax. They don't have a ton to trade. They don't have a ton to move and improve the roster. And the Knicks do. It's just a matter of having the right people make the right moves. And again, if you look at what they did this offseason, getting Jalen Brunson seems to be a good one. Signing RJ Barrett to that extension, I believe is going to be a good one long-term, and we'll see what they can do over the next couple of years.
All right, my last question. I know you got to get out of here in a few minutes.
Yep.
What was your NBA Finals pick at the start of the year, and are you going to stick with it?
Hold on.
I'm
going to guess. I'm going to guess here. I'm going to guess it for you. Golden State.
No.
That's everybody's every year.
No.
Phoenix.
No.
Okay, then I'm tied for words. Let's hear it.
Well, in the Athletics preseason survey, which was anonymous, but I'll share my pick because I like you guys. But I had the Bucks. I picked the Bucks.
You picked the Bucks.
Okay. I had the Bucks. I think the Bucks. I think you could argue last year that if Middleton's healthy, they beat Boston, yes. And they go on to repeat. I always like to say, now Chris Middleton hasn't played yet this year, but I'm always one of those guys who looks at players who are in those quote unquote contract years. And I just think they play their asses off when they're in that position. Middleton has a player option for next year. So once he gets back on the court, he's going to want to prove that he's worth, maybe not being second fiddle or third fiddle to Giannis and Drew, depending on how you look at that situation. I think the fact that they're hurt right now could help them in the long run because you're going to get some reinforcements in Middleton. You're going to get Joe Ingles back, who tore his ACL last season. You could go big with Brook Lopez and Bobby Portis. You've got shooting. You've got the coaching experience. You've got the playoff experience. You've got arguably the best player in the world. So I think that as long as they're hanging around, the second, third, fourth seed in the East. They're going to be something to be reckoned with in the playoffs. And I think looking at the West, the way that's so upside down right now, Portland's the number 1 seed in the West. I think that Milwaukee's got a good shot to win their second title in 3 years.
Oh my God, the West is like all over the place. What is going on with the West? I know it's
Utah's slided.
How is Utah 10-6? They lose their 2 best players, and somehow this team is 10-6.
Well, they could beat the Lakers twice.
Laurie Markkinen believer.
I am. But he doesn't stay healthy.
No, I am not. I am not a Laurie Markkinen believer. I'm not a believer in the Utah Jazz, but for some reason, this team is winning. By the way, everybody, we are talking to the Athletic NBA managing editor, Tyler Batiste. Last question for me, man. We look at the NBA and where the NBA is. The Golden State Warriors are 6-8. Nobody would have thought they were 6-8 at this time. I know it's early, and they're a lot better than anybody thinks they are. Now, Steph Curry has been very much praised over the years because of his game and how it's changed the NBA for the better. And honest to God, and I know you've been an editor and you've been a part of the NBA for a while. Do you really believe that the 3-ball has helped the NBA? Do you really think that Steph Curry has helped the NBA grow as far as the 3-point line is concerned?
I think yes. I think from a standpoint of that, it's kind of more aesthetically pleasing, right? Like, you have more fans, more casual fans. I think are probably more likely to watch 120 to 118 shootouts where people are launching a bunch of threes than maybe. The Nets Spurs NBA final series from 2003, where you're getting, 70, 74, 71 finals. I think the way that he plays has definitely helped the league, the spacing revolution, or whatever you want to call it. And I'll take this opportunity to plug my colleague's book, Mike Prater, who just wrote a book about spacing. I think it's clear that he has. Now, whether it's, I think for a fan, it's good, whether it is for how players are coming up, developing through high school and college. I'm not 100% sure. I think what's interesting is when you look at the college game, it looks nothing like the NBA. And I think that's a problem. You know what I mean? It's kind of a situation where you look at NFL, so many concepts, so many offensive, defensive schemes have been kind of ripped from college. And now, a pro style offense doesn't really mean anything anymore because everybody's spreading it out or running RPOs, and you really don't see many college teams, if any college basketball teams, play the way that teams play in the NBA. So I think that there's probably even a larger level of influence that could be had there once you see the Dukes, the Kentuckys, the North Carolinas kind of playing the style of basketball that people play in the NBA. That kind of probably stunts some of the growth of some of these players who are going to those bigger schools. So as big as that influence is, I think it's not even as big from a development standpoint as it probably could be.
It's funny you actually brought up Mike Prada. When I messaged you yesterday about joining the show, he actually responded like 5 minutes later saying he wanted to join the show. So we're actually going to have him on next week.
Yeah. Tell him I plugged his book.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm just disgusted with the NBA and the 3-point line and Steph Curry. As good as he is at what he does, I think it's affected the game and the growth of the game. Why don't we make a 4-point line? How about that? Make the game even more interesting.
I see your point. I mean, I'm not gonna. I see where you're coming from. I'm not gonna disagree with it. There's probably a little less skill involved for a lot of players now because if you can't shoot a 3 or dunk, maybe you're a little useless for some situations.
Don't tell that to the Greek.
DeMar DeRozan is like a relic right now, right? Like he's one of a kind.
Yes.
And, you don't really see players like that anymore. But I see where you're coming from.
Well,
just respectfully disagree.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. We love you still. But we really appreciate you joining us. We love to get you on again. You're awesome.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Keep doing what you're doing, man. Your stories and everything that you're doing and being the managing editor for The Athletic. It's definitely showing your growth as a writer. So we really
Please
appreciate
subscribe.
it. That's right. Subscribe, ladies and gentlemen. Tyler Batiste. Thank you, man.
Take care.